So the study over the three yogas, we left at the understanding that bhakti or devotion is an awareness of what the providence has already provided, following with an attitude of gratitude. Bhakti is not an avenue or means for asking the Lord for more. It's not trying to satisfy the insatiable urge you have within for more and more and more. It's not begging, it's not asking. Prayer is not to abuse your feelings for God. As I've said, love or devotion is the same feeling. It's a feeling of identification. And when your feelings flow to other, and if you abuse that relationship for your own selfish, self-centered purposes, it doesn't serve the purpose of the relationship, isn't it? You have a relationship, you have a certain emotion, and if you abuse that emotion, abuse that relationship for your own self-gratification, such a relationship doesn't last. When you identify with the other person, you ought to identify with the other person for what he or she is, not what he or she brings to the table, not what other person does to you. If I love you because you are doing XYZ to me, then it tantamounts to me loving what you do for me than me loving you, isn't it? In fact, I'm loving myself more than anything else, because you are in a position to cater to me, whether be it materially, whether be it physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. You have a certain feeling or identification with other person. But when the other person is not able to fit into your satisfaction, not able to cater to you, what happens to your feeling or identification to that very same person? Invariably, there's a dip in your feeling for the other person, isn't it? And that truly is a test of your pure love, or which I'm calling as identification. So when that feeling flows towards anything or anyone at your level or below your level, you have a love. As we said, you love your belongings, you love your family, you love your pet, etc. Anything lower than you. But the same feeling, when it is elevated, when it takes up a higher entity, you say you're devoted to your work, you're devoted to the Lord, devoted to the divine, devoted to your guru, your parents, etc. Just as much as you can't abuse your relationship or love you have with things and beings in the world, you cannot abuse your feelings for God as well. If you use prayer as an avenue to merely gratify your physical, material, emotional, intellectual needs, You are not a devotee of the Lord. That is not bhakti, that is not devotion. So devotion is only a way, a prayer is a way, a means where you are grateful, is a one long chant of thankfulness, followed with an attitude of gratefulness. It is not possible to be grateful to every source of benefaction. Is it possible? Are you even mindful what is all that is coming your way? You've taken so much for granted. So much for granted. If any one of them doesn't function, we become paralyzed. Literally become paralyzed. Life comes to a halt. There's so much that is happening right throughout our lives, every movement in our favor. And when you're not conscious or grateful to that, it's in fact, as Shakespeare says, ingratitude stronger than traitor's arms that quite vanquished him. Throughout the Shastras also, they portray the quality of ingratitude as one of the most powerful qualities which is detrimental to you. You can never afford to be ungrateful. And the worst of all is to be ungrateful to a spiritual guru. It's the worst of all. You can never, ever, first of all, as I've said, you can never, ever settle for all what one has received. It is not a trade here. You can never trade anything that has come your way. So much that has come our way and so much continues to come our way to make sure we carry on with our lives. You can't settle every account, can we? Not possible. So since you can never settle and you don't want to be ungrateful, you ever present with an attitude to serve. I repeat, since you are constantly receiving and you can never ever be grateful for all that is given to us, you can never ever settle your accounts. The only way you can, if at all, pay back is to be ever present and ready with this attitude or the readiness to serve. Therefore, we've said it is an attitude of gratitude. And how, wherever there is love, wherever you have this feeling of identification, synonymous to love and identification, philosophical synonym is service and sacrifice. We've got to remember this. Wherever there is this love and identification or devotion, it expresses, that love expresses as a spirit of service and sacrifice. And on this point precisely, 3-4 weeks ago, when we spoke of the 20th verse, when we said worshipping Murari at least once, we said worshipping Murari was interpreted as karma yoga. So now you will understand how it all falls in its place. So karma or action or service is an expression of bhakti or devotion. If there is no, see, karma, you will serve because you're helpless. I've taken so much more than what I have given back to the society. And you can never ever say that I've given back everything that I've taken. You can never ever say that. Continuously we are taking. Since we are always a taker, it is very important that we consciously inject the spirit of not giving. It is the readiness to give. It is an attitude. It's like you would not be prompt to attend to the doorbell. Would you not be rushing to attend a phone call? You're like a spring on your feet. You are ready. It's a readiness to not just answer anybody seeking any service. It is rather converting every action into worship. So when you convert an action into worship, it becomes karma yoga. Because however said and done, whether you're retired from your profession, you are invariably engaged in action, in some kind of action from morning to night, isn't it? From dawn to dusk. Action you must. So when you're acting, whatever action, it is not what you do. Remember, karma yoga is not what you do. Karma yoga is for what you do. If you identify with a higher goal or a purpose and oblate your actions towards the attainment of that goal, that is nothing but karma yoga. So actions are not driven merely to satisfy your desires. As you know, you can perform 3 types of actions, whether you can perform selfish, unselfish, and selfless. But you want to be a giver because I've taken so much, enough. I cannot. So you feel a sense of vulgarity within. I'm consciously choosing this word, vulgarity. Vulgarity is what? You feel, oh, it's something revulsive. You should feel, RPG, you have been very annoyingly disturbing me from the beginning of the class. You've been very, very, I don't know, I don't have the right word. Because you've been smiling away from the very beginning of the chant. So I want to know why you're smiling.
I'm thrilled to be here. Why else?
No, I'm just kidding. I love your smile. Yes, Hariom. I didn't realize you were just laughing to yourself right from the chant. I don't know what is something is not clear to me. So I just rather clarify it. I know the joy is not containable within, so that's understandable.
Yeah, it's not containable.
Right. So you're able to understand the feeling of vulgarity. I don't know whether I've never used this phrase or this way, but just trying to convey the another word, the stench of selfishness. Stench. See, when you don't know all these impurities, you don't know, it's not there in your dictionary. So it's a new vocabulary you learn. Sriniji, forgiven, no? I have to hear audio also, then only I'm comfortable,
Well, good morning, Guruji. I think you're in a mood to pull people's legs, it looks like. That you're acting ignorant today. So
did I claim, tell me, when did I claim to know anything? It is the biggest mistake I would ever do to think that I know, please. So I am my normal self. So the vulgarity of not living up to the ideal, the ideal rather, and the stench which arises from your selfish pursuits and selfish attachments is very revulsive feeling within. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. Does that resonate with you, Sriniji? I don't know, sir. I want you to talk, and people are muting you. I'm not doing all that, so my hands are off the keyboard. So,
I mean, I'm not so sure whether I would agree, because if a person is by nature very selfish, let's say, just hypothetically, for him or her, there is no stench. That's the way I am groomed. That's the way I think the life is. The outcome of it may not be pleasant to the others in the broader society, but for that individual, himself or herself, I question whether if they don't distinguish, if I'm a person who's avaricious and I just want to grab and it's all about me, there are people like that.
Many like that.
I don't know.
Many like that, aren't they?
I would agree.
The society is inundated with people like that, and people who don't toe the line in the sense of how the society works, and they think of a cause beyond themselves and live a life of sacrifice. They stand out. They in fact become a beacon of light for others to follow, because they become a ray of inspiration. They're not the ordinary. They stand out. It's the sheer contrast they stand out. But when someone lives a life, he's helpless. He or she is helpless because of their nature, as you rightly said. It is their vastness. But just because it is their vastness, just because it's their nature, just because they're compelled to be selfish, doesn't mean they're right, isn't it? Just because they don't see anything fundamentally wrong with their approach to life, doesn't mean that there is a lack of stench or there's no vulgarity. It's just that they don't see it. Exactly like a slum dweller is so conditioned to that life of a slum. He goes back to that life day in and day out after his labor. He doesn't see anything wrong with his life. And you and I would pay a price to take a tour into the slums. I don't know, have any one of you taken a tour into the slums, the biggest slum in India, in the world, isn't it? You've been there, Sriniji?
Yeah, I have. Unfortunately, yes. I did in South Africa to see Soweto. I mean, that was pretty horrifying. Yeah. I mean, one has seen Dharavi as well, of course.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to borrow an example. The analogy is a certain conditioning. And I would only say people are conditioned to live in spiritual slums, not realizing the beauty and grandeur, the freshness of air you breathe by purifying the impurities within. You can't harbor impurities. These are all, it causes a lot of consequences. You and I may not know the consequences. It's a lot of wear and tear. You agree with it, isn't it? If there is this selfishness and attachments and greed and avarice and egoism, if you approach, if you bring these elements to action, this actually causes a great wear and tear within. And the only way you counter these impurities is by divinizing your action, by purifying your action. So you are not performing actions to merely gratify your own raga dvesha. Raga dvesha is your own likes and dislikes. Now, how do you differentiate between an action which is selfish and unselfish? An action which is for a selfish purpose is driven only to satisfy one's own personal likes and dislikes. I do what I like to do. And I wouldn't do something which doesn't fit into my wavelength. That's it. You wouldn't consider going out of the way, trying to think of a cause which doesn't fit into your mental framework. The moment you think in those lines, you're already having a goal or a purpose. So you can have a relative ideal or you can have an absolute ideal. Ideals are relative and absolute. But karma is not a mechanical work, please. Karma, as I've said, is an action arising out of restlessness. I have taken so much and I have to pay back. It's an urgency. You can't sit taking things for granted that it's coming. Let me take it. Now, when you perform the three yogas, which is jnanam, bhakti, and karma, the end result is each one dislodges the thought of the lower and plants the thought of the higher. That's the fundamental principle that works in all three yogas. Now, the last point which I want to mention in the three yogas is every human has to perform all three. And each one has to be performed based on the individual constitution. Vanitama, you understand what I'm saying? That all three has to be performed based on the individual constitution. Nothing is exclusive, it's all inclusive, all the three. Can you tell me what do you understand of that?
One could be like a doer, in which case you would follow the path of karma yoga, or devotion could be what devotion / love could be what your nature is, so which means you would practice the path of bhakti yoga. And jnana yoga, you could be like an intellectual person, so so based upon your nature you follow these paths, but then one needs to follow all three, like you said.
So it's the proportion.
Yeah.
The proportion of physical, mental, and intellectual personalities, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So each of us have got all three. And interestingly, each quality is interdependent on the other. Jnanam has no meaning without bhakti and karma. Bhakti has no meaning without karma and jnanam. Karma has no meaning without bhakti and jnanam. Each standalone by itself is brittle. It will break. That's the beauty of it. You're getting where I'm getting at. So
yes.
every yoga needs the other to supplement, complement. Just at a very superficial level, it's a deep subject. I can't go into it, and we've completely lost Bhajagovindam. We're out of focus. But as I said, I just want to conclude with this. Jnanam. When one gains jnanam, the first consequence or the byproduct, I would say, or the consequences of having jnanam is ahankar, is arrogance. So you need bhakti or devotion to counter the arrogance you develop from knowledge. So you need to, okay, so can you understand this? How you need devotion to offset the arrogance which comes from jnana.
Because devotion is basically gratitude. So you're thankful and grateful. So that would diminish one's ego.
Yes, devotion is also humility. You become humble. You bow down. When you bow down, you don't assume yourself with any superiority complex. You are there. You don't have mightier than thou attitude. I don't think there's much I've achieved. I need to strive for more. So you feel yourself. You don't see a bhakta doesn't have memories of past. Interesting. It is only your past memories that gives you ego. So they don't have such memories of all their past achievements. So they're very humble because they live in the present and they're offering everything to the Lord. It's His grace, it is His work, it is His prasad, it's His offering. I'm just an instrument and just do my part. So they don't attribute anything to themselves. So that constantly they're knocking off the ego. So devotion offsets jnana. Now, what is the loophole of only devotion? Let me get someone else. Hirenji, if I can ask you, what are the possible consequences of just being devoted?
You might end up with kind of blind faith because you are not utilizing your what do you call your mind or intellect, and only being devoted might make you kind of putting in a spot of blind faith.
Okay, mere devotion without knowledge should develop blind faith. That's one of the things. Anything else? Hiren, please think along with us. Yes. Yeah, Vaidyanathanji?
When you were saying about this discussion, one thought that came to me was Mirabai. Mirabai was an example of extreme devotion. I don't know enough about her full life. So for little I know, I thought she was totally devoted and not much of karma yoga or even jnana yoga. She didn't preach or anything. She just was lost in her love for Krishna. And this is an example of extreme devotion, probably with very little of the other two parts that we have been talking. So I'm just trying to bring that in the current discussion to see that has been a successful route as well, with extreme devotion and nothing else, versus trying to have a blend of all three in the journey.
Yeah, no, you have a point. In fact, these are all classic examples or cases which just try to convey that a path alone by itself can take you to salvation. It could either be karma or bhakti or jnanam. It's theoretical, but coming to the practical aspect of life, no individual is predominantly predominantly they could be.
I understand the base. It has to have a blend of all three.
Yeah, it's a predominance. Like, for example, you could be a predominantly a bhakta, but yet the fact that you are here with this knowledge, the fact that you are analytical, you're rational, you're questioning, you're seeing the pros and cons, there is that aspect of intellect. And you are also an action-oriented person. So it is a predominance of one over other, but there is invariably a blend. But theoretically, it's possible that you can attain realization through one path alone. But we should not
more of a exception than a rule. Mirabai,
Yes. Yeah. So theoretical, yes, but we don't have to. The mistake people do in the spiritual path is they want to follow what the masters did. Don't do what they did. Oh, my guru is doing this, let me also copy him. The biggest mistake. And it's a weakness to get into the lifestyle of the gurus or masters. Never get into the lifestyle. Why do we say that? Never get into the lifestyle of a guru.
Well, I was thinking, just in the context of the entire question, that if you have this strong compulsion for one path or following one guru or doing as they do, you can get stuck there, right? That's my, so this, you're so focused on that one thing that you need these other levers to carry you the rest of the way. Yes, it may be predominant. Yes, this guru may have the right style or speech or knowledge or whatever it might be, but you get stuck there. And so in my own case, probably lean more towards jnanam, but through this slowly unfolding, I know that I'm stuck on that. So I have to turn to another part of the path. Otherwise, I know I'll never get past that element of jnana. And I don't want to be stuck.
So you are in lookout for the gurus. I get that. So if I feel your absence, we know you're found.
No, if you feel my absence, is because the timings don't work.
So it's not that you're found.
It's a logistics problem.
Okay. No,
It's not a problem of desire or willingness.
I will take that into consideration,
Yeah,
but still, I'll have my own question marks.
Yeah, well, you said a few weeks ago to Sriniji, we haven't met in person, so your level of trust for me, I know, and for Sriniji is low. Yeah. And so we have to work against that.
Looks like you both are not far away, so it's influencing you, I know that.
Yeah.
No. I get Adviji, what you are saying. Yeah, somebody, Hariji, yes, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
See, the Shastras very clearly warns the students of not getting stuck to the Guru. That is one of the impediments, that if we are getting attached to the Guru, then you get stuck. So at the ultimate aim of our spiritual journey is to leave the Guru, just like leaving the pole vault. When the Guru helps you only to reach up to a certain level. Subsequently, you have to leave all the gurus, whether it is one guru or multiple gurus. So getting attached and stuck to the guru, it doesn't come. That is the warning, that is the caution which the Shastra gives to all students.
With great difficulty, I'm able to manage little students, and that also will go very soon.
No.
Huh? You have put it so explicitly, now they will remember this than all what 1 hour I spoke. That is the problem.
My apology.
You also have to take back all what you said. Adu solungo.
No, do I sound logical?
No, it's absolute
the
sense.
Pole, we will have to leave the pole. You can, with the pole, you can't cross over. The pole vault.
Yeah. But that's the last thing that goes.
Yeah.
The guru is the last thing that goes in your spiritual journey, because you could have developed an attachment to the personality. So therefore, it says the guru could be an impediment for your realization, in exactly the sense, like, Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he was worshipping
the Kali,
the goddess Kali, and his guru, when he was in prayer, came and demolished the idol.
Yeah.
Can you think of it? I don't think it's acceptable if anybody else would have done that. And it's because the guru did it, he just gulped it down and he did wonders. So the guru realized that he was so fanatically stuck to the idol, and that became an impediment to his realization. So the guru broke the idol during his prayer, and that gave him moksha, salvation, liberation. So in that absolute sense, once you have reached that state where you have no other attachment but the guru and the goal, they say, leave the guru, get to the goal. But now, for a while, you can afford to hold on. RPG, my sincere appeal, a little longer. If you can be a little considerate, it will be a very kind of you. I really appreciate that cooperation, RPG. So the question we were saying, why is it we are told not to follow the lifestyles of a guru? That was the question. Then what else is there for us? If you don't follow the lifestyle, what are you following then? Sridhiji?
I think my understanding is, if you're not following that, I think you're trying to basically understand the knowledge that the guru is, and you're seeking that knowledge and not really following. I think that's the way I see it. You're trying to absorb.
You must, correctly said, you must learn to differentiate the teachings from their lifestyle. You must learn to separate it. Isn't it? Here, we are not talking about that is the guru then walking the talk. You got to give complete benefit of doubt to the master. Then don't question it. And thereafter, don't do what he does. Rather, follow the teachings. We would get into great danger if you follow the lifestyle of anyone for that matter, especially those whom you emulate. Because you feel so much that they have consumed you, overwhelmed your personality. You just want to do what exactly they did. And what's the danger? What's the rational aspect of what's the danger in doing what your guru has done or somebody whom you emulate? There is a great danger. What's the danger?
Well, you're not true to yourself. You're not who you are at one level.
You're not trying to allow your personality to express itself. You're trying to fit yourself into another man's shoe, as they say, which is not what it is. So if you extend the concept, those who have attained that state of perfection, all of them spoke the same truth in different language, though in their contemporary thought and language, they spoke the same truth because the state they attained was the same, but the lifestyle they have led was completely different and contrasting. So whom would you follow? For example, Vedanta was saying Mirabai. Would I follow lifestyle of Mirabai, Mother Teresa, Ramatirtha, Ramana Maharshi, or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or Vivekananda, or Adi Shankaracharya? You will be a complete chaos inside. You don't know who is right. So therefore, put aside the life and just go with the principle of following their teachings. So the danger, coming back to that initial question I asked, knowledge, devotion offsets the impediment of knowledge, which is arrogance, ego. What is the impediment in devotion? If I can ask Dr. Surendra Garu.
So Let me see if I can unmute myself.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. This discussion is very interesting, sir. Pranams, and it makes you think and reflect. And that's, I guess that's by design. You are trying to make us think and reflect rather than just blindly follow.
Yeah.
So I have to say, from my own perspective, the gurus I had a good opportunity to come across in my life. I love them, I follow them, I admire them. But I certainly don't want to live like them. That's what is the distinction you're trying to draw. And that's quite appropriate. So the gurus also serve a certain purpose in the society in showing the path, which we as each individuals have to take based on our own various personality traits and prarabdha karmas, etc. And gurus themselves are following the same thing for themselves. They're following their own path based on their own personality traits, and they say so as well. So
Yes.
I don't think the contradiction to say I'm following my guru's advice, but I'm not exactly following his lives. I don't think there's any contradiction there.
Correct.
Having said that, there is often discussion about what is this Guru Gita, where it talks about the importance of Guru and how we have to serve Guru and how to receive his blessings and directions, how you have to be devoted and serve him in many different ways. Some of them are kind of difficult to do, but some people take them very literally and don't follow what they're actually trying to teach you, but simply try to emulate them. I think that's where the difficulty comes from. I suppose that's the answer you're saying.
Yes, yes. So when, as you rightly said, Doctor, in your own way, you rightly said that when the personality overwhelms you and the rational element becomes absent, the personality overwhelms you, you don't see the knowledge element, but just develop a fanaticism. So mere feelings or devotion to something, you develop a fanatic attachment. And the strongest of attachment one can have is we have developed an attachment right throughout.
Yes.
The first toy you picked up in your life as a child, you have developed an attachment to it. Right throughout the various toys that fascinated you, throughout our life getting attached. The most strongest of all attachments is
Used to Guruji. So as a surgeon, if you permit me, we use a knife, for example, to open somebody's abscess or a pus cavity. And we needed the knife to do that. But once you have opened the abscess and the pus is drained out, the problem is solved. You don't need the knife either. So we have to be prepared to discard the knife as well.
Yep.
So that analogy, I believe Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has mentioned at one point, when you use it as a needle to remove a thorn from your foot as you're walking, you have to discard the needle and the thorn both. You have no use for that.
Yes.
Along those lines, I suppose is pertinent to this discussion.
Yes, very much, very pertinent. So the biggest attachment people have developed is to their religion, is to their concept of God. And anything that has helped you envision that concept of God, you have developed a fanatic attachment to it. So today you can have a World War III if I were to instigate you on your religion, because your thinking goes off rails, you're off rails. You're attached to politics, you're attached to your political party. I was just hearing that people are killing themselves in some part of India, in Calcutta. It was all in the smear in the papers because they want to elect their party to the power, to rule the state, to take over that government. So people are so vehemently holding on to a political party. I saw a video. We just came in a common group. A fellow has come out of watching a movie, I think so. From what I gathered is he watched the Telugu movie of hero, I think Pawan, who is that? Pawan Kalyan, is it? Have any one of you watched that video?
No.
His suggestion, Dr. Garu, he's saying, when you go to the movie, please take 2 t-shirts. Because you will go completely berserk that you will actually tear your t-shirt. And then you will have another one to wear and come out. I've never
I
seen
also
anybody.
read
Sorry?
I also read in today's India news that the
Uh-huh.
state of Karnataka and state of Andhra Pradesh are fighting over where Hanuman was born. And they have seated expert panels to make a decision where he was born, whether it was born in Karnataka or whether it was born in Andhra Pradesh. And I
We
hope
should
people
ask his guru. We should ask his guru, no? The guru would know.
I
Ask
hope people
Lord
look.
Rama. Huh?
So it is also spiritual attachment in a wrong way, fighting over where he was born, etc., rather than focusing on what his life and example teaches us and what we need to follow.
Absolutely. So you're rightly said. A lot of attachments. The biggest to deal with is your fanaticism towards your God or religion or guru or anything you're holding on to. So you need the knowledge. In fact, in the Shastras, the knowledge is compared to what? What's the analogy the Shastras give to knowledge? Harishji, any idea? Guess. What's the analogy of knowledge given in the Shastras? They compare it to what? Precisely to deal with this strong bondage and attachment you have developed. Knowledge helps as an antidote for the fanatic attachment. And the description of that knowledge, or the knowledge which we are learning, what's the description? Any idea? Yes, G?
It's the means to the end, not the end. It's the tool.
It is the tool, it is the means, but I'm asking an analogy. How do they describe of this knowledge, the description of this knowledge? An example, it should stick very strongly with you. Rajima is saying it's the sun. It is to talk of the sun, but not in the context. It's not lighting of the lamp, marking. I know where you're coming from, whether the sun or the knowledge, which is the light dispelling darkness. It's not as powerful, I would say. There's something very, very strong. Example.
Is it like clothes which you wear and then you change them or you discard them when they outlive their usefulness?
No. If somebody has been a student of this knowledge, they'll know what it is. A long student of this knowledge, because then they have actually studied the Shastras. Any idea, RPG? Don't give up so easily.
Antidote to ritual.
RPG, you. What's happening? Pardon us, it could be some technical issues we've been having of late.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to, my study is fairly narrow, so a kind of a general concept of the Shastras is not in my wheelhouse, but so I'm obviously not drawn to the answer that you're looking to hear. I was going to say the sun as well, but that's too obvious.
No, in fact, the most powerful example in the Shastras, I think it is taken from the Ishavasya Upanishad, where he says, Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva, he says. He uses the concept of knowledge or detachment to an axe. He says an axe of detachment. The only way you will get yourself free from the bondages you're clinging on to helplessly, you're helpless because you've recklessly bound yourself to various things that came in your way, not realizing that everything was just as a means to help you in the journey of life to reach the larger goal of realization of your own betterment. Everything is a means, not realizing that you're bound yourself. I'm bound to my family, I'm bound to my home, I'm bound to my job, I'm bound to my belongings, I'm bound to my social service, I'm bound to my religion, I'm bound to my God. So it's just confining me. How to get yourself liberated? Use an axe of detachment. Asanga shastrena. The shastra is the axe. Asanga, the axe of detachment. So the knowledge, the quintessence of this knowledge is detachment, to live a life of detachment. So the symbolic representation of knowledge is that sharpness of an axe. And then the softness of devotion. Look at that. If you have too much of this, you become arrogant. So knowledge helps. So the devotion helps you to calm it down, cool it down, butter it down. If too much of emotion without any intellect or without a head, you've developed a bondage attachment. You need someone to come and break it open, free you, liberate you from the bondage. So jnanam needs bhakti, bhakti needs knowledge. And the moment you have bhakti, there is expression of karma. And when you perform karma, it prepares the ground for Rajima. Karma prepares the ground for?
Would it be jnanam?
It is jnanam. Karma prepares the ground for jnanam. If a person doesn't do karma, as Surendraji said, karma is first and foremost, you must be grateful to the very source of benefaction, to the very guru. You should be grateful. Serve the guru first. Guru sevaya. It is said in the Shastras. It's not that the guru wants to be served by his pupil, by his students, but the student is told to serve, because if you do not serve, you are a taker, you are selfish. It is not going to help you evolve. So start your service. As they say, charity begins at home. Start your acts of service by serving the guru first, and then go beyond it. It's not again a fanatic attachment to a personality, but serve and look beyond that. So karma helps you to be worthy of receiving the knowledge, because what is the use of this knowledge if you remain selfish and self-centered? There's no use if I have all the knowledge and yet continue to remain with my own limited, impure thoughts. There has to be a change. So karma helps you to receive more knowledge. Bhakti helps you to counter the arrogance. Knowledge helps you to get rid of your attachments. So all the three are interdependent on each other. A last example to convey this: if you look at any construction site, initial stage of construction, where you find them that they're putting up these structures, for putting these pillars. You have these beams or pillars. They have this iron cast things, isn't it? What do you call them? Casings? What's the right word for that, Harishi?
Well, they technically call it the shuttering.
Shuttering. Okay.
Yeah, the shuttering.
Okay. So the shuttering, or even when you're putting a slab, you have this scaffolding. Okay. So shuttering or scaffolding. Now, that is jnanam. That's a very framework. That's a very skeleton. And then you have the concrete. The concrete is the bhakti or the devotion. And then the karma is the actual curing you got to do. You got to constantly keep pouring the water. You got to give it that necessary moisture so that it strengthens and stabilizes. And if you don't do curing, it loses its strength, it becomes brittle, and it will give way in the long way. Starts developing cracks, and it will actually buckle, the sheer weight. So you need all the three in order to have a strong foundation, so that you build your spiritual edifice. The scaffolding, the concrete, and the curing. So karma is the curing. You don't do that, may God be with you. No guru can help you, nobody can help you. All right. Let's chant the 20th verse once, so that we know this is what we have studied for so long, trying to understand the three yogas mentioned here. Okay. Bhagavad Gita Kinchita Dhita Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pita Sakrudapiyena Murari Samarcha Kriyate Tasyaya Menana Charcha.